here in America. So how many of you guys actually know that the methods that are being used here in America? Can you guys name some?
Lethal injection.
Okay. You done?
That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. So yes, lethal injection is one of the most common. So today, I'm going to be telling you guys a little history behind the death penalty, the methods and its procedures, and lastly about this method that was found as seen as the right or the humane way to kill a person, but isn't being used. Okay, so right here you guys could see the pink states are the ones that are actually enforcing the death penalty, and the green ones are the states that aren't, that they just don't use the death penalty or haven't established one. Okay, so some history behind it. They didn't really start taking down like the statistics or the number of how many people were being executed till 1930s. And from the year 1930 to 1967, 3,859 people were executed under the civil jurisdiction here in America. And I chose the 4 top states in that time, and it's Georgia with 366 executions, followed by New York with 329, then Texas with 297, and here California with 292. So between that time of 1930 and 1967, 3,334 out of 3,859 people were executed because they murdered someone. In the 1960s, 10 states actually were enforcing the death penalty, but after a lot of like trials and a lot of people just like saying that no, you shouldn't do it, they kind of stopped the death penalty and didn't go for it. But it started once again in January 17, 1977 when it was the first death penalty, and since then we've been using it. So now some methods that are actually still being used here in the United States. It's of course lethal injection, the electrical chair, gas chamber, firing squad, and hanging. So with the lethal injection, these are the states that are actually still using it, and mostly all of them, it's like their number one choice is the lethal injection. So what they do, they strap you onto this gurney and they insert 2 needles, one to the right and one to the left hand, and it's with IV, and then they actually use 3 major drugs to kill a person. The first one is sodium thiopental, and what that does is actually it makes a person be unconscious. The second one is pancuronium bromide, and it causes your diaphragm and your lungs from not getting air. And then the last one is potassium chloride, which actually makes your body go into a cardiac arrest and you eventually just die. The second one is the electrical chair, and for the electrical chair, you're sent into the execution chamber and you're strapped into this wooden chair, and it's actually bolted to the ground to a rubber mat. And then what they do is they actually strap you down from your arms, your legs, and your head area, and they put this metal like cap on you, and underneath the metal cap it's a sponge. And they begin the procedure by using a 2,300 volts for 8 seconds, and then they use 1,000 volts for 22 seconds, and they repeat again the 2,300 volts for 8 seconds. And if the prisoner is still not dead after all those, they actually repeat the process until the person is declared dead. The third one is gas chambers. So for the gas chambers, it's 3 prisoners usually, and they're all taken into this chamber and they're strapped into chairs, and there's actually like 3 switches, and each prisoner has a switch that they turn, and once all of them are turned, it drops the cyanide pellets into sulfuric acid, and that causes the lethal gas to arise. And they actually ask the prisoners for their cooperation, and to whenever the air is actually let out, they have to take in a deep breath. That way they pass out and don't feel as much pain and just die. But let's say, of course, who's going to want to cooperate to their own death? If you hold your breath, you actually feel like all the gas coming into your body, and you feel like you're like burning up inside. And yeah, usually it takes up to 6 to 8 minutes for a person to actually be declared dead. and 30 minutes for them to clear the air and take out the bodies. The fourth is the firing squad. So for the firing squad, like all the others, they tie you down to a chair or to, it's called a skate, I believe. And what they do is they dress you in dark blue, and they put this like white piece of cloth on your heart. And the commander-in-chief, I guess, he chooses 5 men to actually stand 20 feet right in front of the prisoner. And they use 30 by 30 caliber rifles. And the thing is, out of those 5, only one of them actually has real bullets in their gun. All the other ones are just fake bullets that are kind of just like, they sound and it feels like you're actually shooting, but you're actually not. And the reason they do that is because they don't want to let those 5 men know which one actually killed that prisoner, because then it's in their conscience, or like, you know, they feel bad about it, and then they probably will like commit suicide themselves. And the last one is hanging. And hanging is they take the prisoner up to this tower, and what they do to the rope before they actually put it on the prisoner is that they wet it and they dry it, and they stretch it and they dry it, and they do that because they want the rope not to like kind of like, it won't be stiff or it won't like curl up once the prisoner's falling. And the way they decide or like choose like how high or how long their rope is they actually have this chart that tells you like a height with a weight and how long the drop has to be. And if, let's say, like the chart wasn't actually correct, or like sometimes a person might be the same height as you and the same weight, but you guys have way different body structures and how your body is, you actually could just be strangled because the drop didn't just kill you. Like it just kind of like make your neck hurt, but like you're still being strangled. And they won't stop it, they'll just leave you there until you die. And those were the 5 methods, and as you can see, some of the states are repeated, and it's because the lethal injection is the #1 method that the United States use. But if the prisoner does ask for a different method, they are able to ask for it, or sometimes the jury decides what method to use. So a method that was found was, it was by a man named Michael Portillo, and he actually has a documentary called How to Kill a Human. And he went through all the 5 methods I just mentioned, and he noticed that, you know, after everything, a person still suffers. So he wanted to find a way to kill a person in the right or a nice way. And he found it by this thing called hypoxia by nitrogen. So first he found it in altitude chamber, but those altitude chambers are really expensive. So he noticed that this man was using hypoxia by nitrogen to actually kill farm animals, but in a way that they won't feel it. So what this hypoxia by nitrogen does is it kind of makes you feel kind of like drunk. So once you inhale enough of it, it will make you feel drunk and make you feel kind of lightheaded and very overconfident. And then before you know it, after inhaling a certain amount of it, you actually just pass out and you don't feel anything. And he actually tried it himself, but not with the hypoxia by nitrogen, but in the altitude chamber. And they kept asking him like several simple questions, like what's 5 plus 4? And he would be like so like stubborn, like, oh, it's 8, it's 8, it's 8. And obviously it's not. But he didn't even know what was going on. And then they told him like, oh, if you don't put your mask on so he won't inhale the gas, you're gonna die. And he was just so careless and carefree, like, oh, how I'm gonna die. And he didn't put it, and like someone had to actually grab him and put it on, and actually just saved his life. So this is actually a method that a prisoner won't feel anything. But the reason why it's not being used is because the people that are for the death penalty feel that it's a very nice way to kill a person. If they killed someone and that person they killed suffered, they should suffer when they die as well. So today you guys learned a little history behind the death penalty, the methods and the procedures that are still being used here in the United States, and about a method that is somehow a proper or humane way to kill someone, but is for some reason not being used for XYZ reasons. And I believe that you guys should be very well informed about this because it is a very controversial thing that's happening here and in other states as well. And if it was me, I would really want to be informed about it. Thank you.